Hello, my name is Jeremy, this is Red Means Recording, and today I'm going to tell you about the new Elektron Model cycles. There are probably a billion launch day videos about this right now, so I'm sorry for cluttering your feed with another one, but that's how things go sometimes. Let me just play a pattern, and then we can talk about what this thing is. All right, let's go. Kind of a shitty ending there, but whatever. Hey, this is the modal cycles. If y'all know about Elektron's a line of things, this is the second product in the line of the modal series. The first one was modal samples, which was kind of a digitact, but stripped down a little bit to some more core components. And this thing, if I had to put it in a box that was easy to understand, I would call it sort of a cross between the Sonic Potions LXR digital drum machine and choice pieces of the Elektron Digitone made into a very concise, stripped down, sort of like playable digital synthesis box that does mostly percussion sounds, but as you've heard, it's capable of doing tonal sounds as well. So you heard you can make beats in it. You know, I have 6 channels here. Each channel, actually, let's go ahead and make a new project real quick. Boop. So each channel can have a different sound on it. And if you go up into this thing right here, selects your track, you can see that we have different machines. So, you know, kick, snare, metal, percussion, tone, and chord. Each one has these shape controls: pitch, decay, color, shape, sweep, contour, and then sends LFO speed, volume, plus distortion, which is actually really cool. We'll talk about in a bit. Each one has individual swing control, and each one has an individual chance control. If you're familiar with the Elektron sequencer, you know that there is chance as one of the options in terms of each step being triggered or not based on a percentage. This gives you easy access to chance across the board, and as we go through more performances on this thing, you'll see why that's really cool. You can still access all the traditional Elektron parameters for sequencer stuff by step too. So this just gives you a oh, there's a hair on here. Gross. This just gives you a more immediate control over it. And when you're doing control all, which controls every single machine at the same time, my aesthetic is spinning over here, then you can adjust chance for every track at once, which is a cool performance option. So the first thing we want to talk about is the machines. Each track can have one machine on it, but you can parameter lock or step lock a different machine to each step, which is really, really useful. So let's take a listen to the machines real quick. I'm going to turn up this volume thing here, which also sends to sort of an overdrive circuit. I'm assuming it's digital. I don't know 100% for sure. All of the machines share that overdrive circuit, it sounds like. So if you start overdriving too much stuff, you're going to get distortion across the board. And as you heard in my original performance, sometimes that's cool, but you can manage both volume plus distortion here, going into the overdrive circuit, And also on the track level data here, if you go all the way back to where it says track 1, you can adjust the volume of the track. And by holding down function, you can adjust the pan of the track. And it's not letting me press the button at the same time. You can hear this pad is velocity sensitive. You can adjust the velocity sensitivity of these pads by going into a menu. So that's cool. All right, so let's go ahead and listen to what this kick machine sounds like. We have pitch. When you're not in any step mode, this is step mode, so I can set steps right here on the sequencer. But when you're not in that mode, this becomes a keyboard down here. And if you go into track menu, right here where it says KBT, you can adjust the level. You can adjust the transpose of the keyboard. So that's cool. So we already talked about pitch. I'm going to go back to this. Decay. All of these tracks are monophonic individually, so they will cut off the previous thing. Okay. Color, which sometimes works in conjunction with shape. Ooh, yeah, there's that nasty distortion. Sweep, which in the case of the kick is going to add more of that downward pitch modulation at the beginning. And contour, which works in conjunction with some of these other ones. So you can hear how, we went from a bass sound, we went from a kick sound to this really nasty bass sound, which is pretty fucking cool as far as I'm concerned. Let's go to snare. We're going to turn up the volume. There's our normal snare. All right, track 2. Here's our snare. Here, adding more attack with the sweep knob. Here's some sort of frequency modulation happening with color. There's our snarey snare. All right, go over to, this is going to be our metal engine. This is sort of used mostly for hi-hats. Pitch. Decay. Color. Shape. Color and shape work together pretty well. There's a nice hi-hatty sound. It's a good time to show off retrig. Retrig is the ability to add micro steps in the thing. So if I hold a step here and hit the retrig menu, I'll get the retrig menu. I can turn it on. I can change the rate to something that is faster than the steps I have. I can change the length of that retrig. So right now it's set to a quarter note. We just need an eighth note, but we'll leave it at quarter just because I'm feeling lazy. Oh no, I messed it up. You can also change the fade in and out depending on negative or positive values here, which is pretty cool. So let's go here and hear a retrig. Yeah, there we go. That's a retrig. And there's a lot of values for the retrig. It's like quarter note to like 1/80th or something like that, which is pretty cool. Next track, what do we have here? This next machine is perc, which sounds a little bit like a conga. Let's see how much we can mess this up. That's acceptable there. like a ring mod. Some pitch modulation. You can see the values when it's doing this mod stuff, like the ring mod or a frequency mod. When you get values of divisions of 8 or 4, then you're going to get more sort of like tonal things, just like you would with like frequency modulation or something like that. So that's pretty cool. So let's go back into the track menu right here and turn the pan a little bit to the right. We'll go to our hi-hat and turn it a little bit to the left and just get a little bit of stereo image. Dope. Next up is tone, and this is a tonal sort of thing. It's a little synth, basically, and it can be used for all sorts of stuff. We're going to go ahead and turn it into a bass. So let's go to the track menu and click into here and turn this down to... All right, let's do some real-time recording. So if you turn the click on by holding function and click, which is the metronome, turn it on. You can also just hold this and it will turn the click on and off, pretty much like the digitizing digitone, so that's cool. You can have the option of a pre-roll for little clicks before you start recording, which is very useful for live playing. I'm going to turn the chance down on this. Now there's an 80% chance that each one of these hits will land, which is a cool way to add variation. You can hear that distortion working together now with everything, so that's fine. I kind of like the grittiness of it, but I'm going to turn this bass down a little bit. I'm going to turn our click off, turn our chance back. Function plus this little puncher thing right here will get you to the quantize menu. I'm going to turn global quantize up, so anything that I record real time will be quantized. Other things in this menu include individual quantizing things, so per track. Yeah, and live record on, blah, blah, blah. So that's cool. Let's go ahead and hear what this tone can do. Decay is pretty self-explanatory. This is like a frequency modulation thing. So in multiples of 4 and 8, you're going to get more melodic sounding frequency modulation, but in the middle, you're going to get some kind of nasty sounds, which is sometimes useful. Holding down function will go by whole amounts. So you introduce some interesting harmonics on the top there. Dope. Okay, chord. Last but not least, turn this up. Let's go ahead and find our bass pitch. Cool. All right, chord is interesting. Obviously, it is playing a chord by hitting one key. The shape knob here is actually what controls what chord is being played. So it starts off with minor and goes through a dizzying amount of chords, from fifths to unison. So that's really cool. Let's go ahead and try to lay down a chord track and also maybe step lock some parameters to it, because that's how you would be able to get chord changes within the modal. So right now it's set to unison. Let's go ahead and change this one. By holding down the trigger step, you can now lock any one of these parameters. So we're going to change this to minor, and we'll change this one to sus4. We'll also raise the note value of this, because I think I want it to be an octave higher. So to do that, hold down the trig. Now you can see the note that was played. Let's go ahead and turn this up to C5, and we'll we'll turn this up to C5 as well, but we'll change the chord to something else. That's acceptable. We'll turn the chance down so it's not just always hitting the same. And let's hear what the chord can do. The thing about chord that's really cool is the color knob actually opens up the inversions of the chord. So if we're all the way down, you're going to hear very little of the inversion, and then if you turn it all the way up, it's going to be a brighter inversion. There's a lot of cool little sweet spots to be found when these, within these parameters here. And if you want to save a preset that you've created, it's as easy as going into Function, Preset menu, selecting the folder, hitting Function again for the menu, and you can set Save Preset. By holding down Function, you get access to all of the letters and numbers that you could possibly want. By hitting Function and the level data thing, you can jump between lowercase and uppercase, which is a very nice little quality of life thing. Yeah, so you would name your preset, hit save, and it automatically saves it into the folder that you've created. Each voice, and we'll start over here on track 1. Get out of that menu. Track 1. A punch function and sort of a more of a sustain function. It's almost like having access to different kinds of accents for your thing. And you can lock those, so if I wanted to go to here and do that, I could, and that. Same thing with snare. If you have a trig that you like and you want to copy it to other trigs, hold the trig down and hit copy, hold another trig down and hit paste. Cool thing is now I can see all the stuff that I locked to that trig, and you can see it's blinking, which means it has some stuff added to it. So let's go over to our metal track and hear how that sounds. So with click, we actually hit almost like an open hi-hat, so that's kind of cool. I guess, I guess that's cool. I don't know. Let's go over to our metal track and listen to that. Excuse me, our perk track. So this was a preset that I made, and you can hear it actually has some LFO going on it, so it's probably a good time to talk about LFO stuff. Each voice has access to one LFO. If you go into the LFO menu here, you get access to a wave shape. You get access to a multiplier, which multiplies this LFO speed right here. You get access to a destination. In this case, it's set to pan. And you get access to the depth. You can see it's modulating that now. Modulating that. Modulating shape. Opens up sound design possibilities a lot. All right, let's talk about reverb and delay. Sorry, they're right there. Reverb and delay. Freebird and delay. Go to our snare here and mute the other ones. There's a reverb and delay engine in here. Reverb is stereo, I believe. Delay is not, unfortunately. I kind of wish it was a ping pong delay, but what are you going to do? Holding down function will change the tone of the reverb from bright to dark. Sort of a high pass, low pass filter. Delay is an echo. Holding down function will get you to the delay feedback, and then this will mess with the delay time. Multiples of 8, I believe, or 4. Even numbers will give you even beat divisions. And these can be locked as well. So, if I go into trig mode, then I have that. Anyone that's familiar with the Elektron sequencers understand parameter locking. It's a very, very powerful feature. And again, like I said, you can lock other trigs to other machines. So I'm going to go to trig 1 here and hold this down and go into here, hit this twice. Now I'm in the machine mode again, and I'm going to go to metal, I guess. Paste, 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 paste. This is going to sound a bit messy, but now I have 2 machines going on. If I wanted this to be a kick, hit this twice so I go into the machine mode, click kick, paste, 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 paste. So there's a whole drum line on one channel. Let's go ahead and turn on the rest of our things, and I'll show you Control All mode. The first thing I want to do before I use Control All mode is save my pattern. So I'm going to go to Function plus this little friend here, this little wrench, and hit that. Now that's saved to a temp area. The pattern is in a temp buffer save. To save a pattern completely, you would hit this button, go into the pattern menu, go over to Save, and save the pattern. Same naming convention thing that you had before, where you can name the thing however you want. But this temp save thing allows you to save the pattern in a buffer that can then be instantly recalled by hitting function reload pattern. And that's very useful when you're using Control All. Control All is a thing that Elektron boxes like to do where you can affect every single track on here at the same time's parameters by holding down a series of keys. In this case, it's function track, and then messing with these parameters. And I'll show you what that sounds like. This is cool with chance because I'm going to turn down the chance of this whole thing and create sort of a lurching, uncertain breakdown. So I've messed up my pattern completely. If I want to return it to its original state, function reload. Let me show off one more thing, and that is trig conditions. So I'm going to go to a blank pattern here. Actually, no, I can just use the snare pattern here. Okay, so we've already talked about chance, which turns down the chance that a trig will hit. Every single one of these trigs pretty much here has been parameter locked, as you can see by them blinking, and holding down one of these trigs will show you the things that have been parameter locked. But if you go into a trig and turn chance, you get the options of a bunch of trig conditions, which are ways that you can affect how a particular step or trig will play. So fill is an interesting one. It allows you to create a series of fill notes that will only play when you hold down this page button. So you can actually create a playable variation in your pattern by setting certain trigs to fill. You can set it to only play on the first hit, which is kind of cool. You can use those for like crash symbols or effect symbols, stuff like that. Then you have 1 to 99 in terms of chance. So you can individually set a parameter to only play a certain percentage. Each trig can be set to a different one, so you can start creating evolving patterns, especially when you couple this with non-traditional pattern lengths. So right, it's not 16 steps. We can go in and set it to different times of repeats of the measures. So, for instance, we have 1 of 2 right here. That means that this will play once in the first bar. Every single time it pattern repeats twice. And we can keep on going up from 2 of 2, 1 of 3, 2 of 3, 4 of 4. Now, keep in mind that when we increase, if we take a 16-step thing here and we increase it to 64 steps, then you have to go back and change this thing because it's based on how many steps are in the repeat. I hope that makes sense. It's a little weird to explain. Last thing before we just play a bunch of stuff. So over here in Page, you can go to Fill, which is what we talked about, creating a fill and holding that down. You can also go into Scale mode. So Function Scale. Now we have the scale set up. And what that means is per track or per pattern, you can set how many steps, the length, which is right now 16. You can set the scale. So let's go ahead and turn this to track. There we go, just by pressing that right there. Now, scale is going to change what the scale of each one of these steps is, either faster or slower. So 2x is twice as fast. 1/2 is half as fast. And you can go through and really dial that in such a way that if you have, like, let's say you're doing like a 170 BPM track, you've used all 64 steps available to you, but your chord progression that you want, or let's say a bass line that you want, is longer than that. You can go into the scale mode and change the scales to like 1/2 or 1/4, and now you have like 128 steps or 256 steps to work with. They're all slower, so you can't get into the granularity of individual 16th notes for parameter locking or anything like that, but you do get the ability to make longer patterns. You can still use retrig to get faster retrigs in that case. Also, if you go into retrig setup, you can set these pads to retrig when you play them, which is really, really, really cool. Anyway, so different ways to combine page length and which is sort of your track length and track scale to get more complex things. Okay, last thing about the page menu that I just want to say is so when you make a pattern and it is 16 steps here by default, go into the page menu here. I'm going to turn this to pattern mode. I'm going to turn this length up to 64. Watch what happens over here. See how we're filling up these little boxes? That's 1 of 4, 2 of 4, 3 of 4, 4 of 4. It's 4 measures basically. So now it's taken those steps that I made in the first pattern, in 16 steps for 1 of 4, and repeated them to the other patterns. That means that now I have more to play with. So if I wanted to go into this bass line here, go back to our track menu. When I hold this, if I hit function clear, that track is now clear. So I can go back into here. Let's go ahead and unmute. I can now play a longer phrase if I want to. So we got that click going on. Kind of messy, but you get the point. You now have access to a longer phrase, which is really, really cool. I'll probably just upload a video of me just playing this thing as well, so you can skip all me yapping if you want. But yeah, modal cycles, very, very cool. If you're in a position where you have been looking for sort of something that's more drum synthesis oriented, that can go between more traditional sounds, but also kind of get wild. And if you're a fan of the Elektron sequencer, like I've showed off with chants and conditions and parameter lockings, which, I mean, it's super powerful, then this is a great little box. I'm really, really stoked to see more drum synth stuff coming out because as much as I love samplers, it's really nice to have the ability to dial in some wacky percussion sounds and really get some of that grit that this thing is capable of. It doesn't have to be nasty, but it can get nasty, and I've been pushing it towards nasty because I'm just kind of in a nasty mood this year so far for some reason. My name's Jeremy. This is Red Means Recording. Check the link in the video description if you want to see the Just Sounds demo. This has been a walkthrough of the Elektron Model cycles. I hope you have a wonderful day.